WoTLK Classic's weirdest bugs so far. I know there are quite a few, so yeah, let's have a look at those.
I spend quite a bit of my time reading online about Classic WoW, often to the detriment of my real-life sanity meter, be it on the forums, subreddits, or
It's
fan
full of
sites.
bugs.
And I've had more than just one good video idea after having read an online discussion. After all, Classic isn't exactly developed in the same way that most games are. The next big patch isn't a mystery, or the one after that, or even the one after that. We very much know what's going to be coming in the future. After all, it's just the re-release of a game as it once was, with some changes
And
here
here's
and
the
there
problem,
these
guys.
days.
Like the problem about like all WoW Classic versions, it doesn't matter if it's like WoW Classic, if it's WoW TBC Classic, or WoW Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Like the excitement is no longer there that we used to have when a new expansion came out, because we didn't know what to expect. Now we know everything what to expect, unless you're a new WoW player that didn't grow up with those WoW games, right? But I grew up with them, so for me, each time a new classic version of WoW comes out, I already know what this is about. Like, it's not so exciting to me. It's still fun to play, don't get me wrong, but the excitement isn't there anymore because it's the second time I see this, so yeah.
And one thing I've read time and again when Blizzard puts something up on the PTR for testing is, why have you got to test the old game, Blizzard? Look, just go find the WoW patch that you have on your database or something, go click on it and press Ctrl-C, then go to the live game environment, press Ctrl-V, and there you go, all done. Can't be any harder than that, surely. I mean, you've already released this game once, it's not like anything new could go wrong.
Yeah,
Is
you
it?
should know the bugs
Well,
already.
as it turns out, it can. In fact, a lot of things can go wrong, and there's a few reasons for that, really. As far as we know, there isn't really a concept of a classic client because it's the same as the retail one. That's why we have quality of life features such as the reconnect button to log back in, instead of having to close the game and relaunch through Battle.net because,
like
come
back
on,
in
who
the day.
actually retype their password in? It's more Blizzard are going through tons of patch data and rebuilding Classic onto newer infrastructure, which means sometimes players discover new things or unintended interactions which make it into the game. Some of these may well have even been possible back in 2008 and 9. It's just nowadays things are shared way faster through Discord, YouTube, Reddit, and so on. So I thought, why not go over some of the biggest bugs Wrath of the Lich King has seen so far? See how many you've experienced yourself. I bet it'll be quite a few of them. Let's start from the start with the launch day of WoTLK Classic, which saw thousands of new and returning players alike embarking.
This was so fun, guys. Like, I remember back in the day when it launched, and this was not like so long ago. It's not even a year. Like, wait, for how long is it now? Or almost a year, right? So yeah, I remember like going with the boat to freaking Northrend, and I had problems even seeing my character. The boat was so freaking full. I was standing there and I only see freaking names. I can't even see myself. I remember. This was cool. Like, it was the same back then, like with Vanilla WoW, right? Like, a lot of people had the same issue. And sometimes, like, even like games would crash for some people because there was just so much stuff going on, and some computers, because they were weaker back in the day, couldn't handle it. So sometimes your game would just freaking crash, right? Like, I didn't experience that crashing, but I experienced some lag, to be honest.
Once again on their trip towards Northrend, and broadly speaking, it was quite a solid launch. Layering had come a long way since the start of Classic and allowed for players to be divided up on even the biggest servers in the world. I first personally went to the Howling Fjord and the trip went off without any problems, that wonderful scenic ship ride in. Though later in the day when I decided to go see how people were starting off in the Borean Tundra, it was a little more problematic. Well, at least it was on the Alliance side. Perhaps Horde Zeppelin's works, because
the only thing I hated was respawns of mobs.
The boat from Stormwind was stuck in a looping loading screen that was going straight back to Stormwind once again. It was like playing on a toaster level PC back in 2004 where your game couldn't load the new zone before the boat takes the trip back. The fix to this? Well, Blizzard just added a teleporter to the Dockmaster. It's still there today. It doesn't quite capture that first voyage feeling into the tundra, but I guess it's better than being stuck in boat limbo. Speaking of things that happened right at the start of the expansion, remember the pre-patch event, the whole zombie invasion, elites attacking the capital cities and so on. It was supposed...
That's the one where I didn't get why like people were complaining. So people were going mad on the forums. They were like, oh, this event, it sucks. I can't go to the city. I can't go to the bank. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm being constantly attacked by ghouls. I actually didn't care. I thought it was like kind of fun. It added some challenge actually going to the capital cities. Like when I went to Stormwind when the event started, I was at first a little bit annoyed because I couldn't go to the freaking bank and to certain places there. But after some time I got used to it. It was actually pretty fun. I even transformed myself like a few times on purpose because I wanted to transform so I can attack players. It was so fun.
Supposed to end around the same time that we took our first journey to Northrend. Keep in mind the pre-patch began on August 30th. I don't know if it's like this on anyone else's
this was
server,
so fun.
but on Pywood Village EU, nobody's gone and told the NPCs in Shatrath that the event ended like 6 months ago now. I'm pretty sure we still had the Argent Dawn NPCs in Ironforge and Stormwind when the Lovers in the Air event was on as well. I just didn't think to record it then.
So long ago,
We've grown to accept them as part of the city. Can't be too careful with a Scourge now, can you? Okay, one more from launch now. So if you got to 80 really fast and started to queue Wintergrasp, you would quickly find out that it wasn't totally working as intended. See, the battle is only supposed to take place once every 3 hours on a cross-realm basis. The fact that it was cross-realm was a change from the original game too. Maybe this had something to do with it. Either way, at launch it was found out by players that Blizzard had not put a cooldown on the ability to queue Wintergrasp, and due to the nature of this battleground being available once per 3 hours and not being spammable, it gave a pretty generous amount of honor, and as it was cross-server, the queue just popped instantly every single.
That's good but bad at the same time. So it's like easier to grind for honor and stuff and get some cool stuff. But at the same time, this was not intended. But that's what happens if you're trying to merge certain realms together and stuff. Like, of course, the game is like old school, like the version of the game, right? So if you're trying to mix it up with like modern technologies, like we see here with this PvP zone, of course bugs can appear. I'm not surprised at this. Like some of those, like I can already guess like some other bugs. Let me guess, there are some bugs also including with raids and stuff and like cooldowns and things. Like we will see probably more like that.
Time. It was one of those rare times where the Horde and the Alliance would work together to maximize honor gains by allowing the attacking side to win as fast as possible by feeding the enemy team loads of kills so they could quickly upgrade their siege engines and end the game in a matter of minutes. Players then reported upwards of 50,000 honor per hour, which is totally insane.
Nuts.
On top of the Wintergrasp marks that could be used for looms and various PvP gear. Blizzard took notice soon enough though, and implemented a cooldown on Wintergrasp, so it was working as it should have been. In the end though, this one was a case of exploit early, exploit often, as players kept their honorable gains. The next one I got for you has to be one of the most bizarre bugs I've ever heard of in World of Warcraft. This is Saronite bombs rebuilding Lich King's platform levels of how on earth did this happen. Imagine if we saw that again in Classic, by the way. Anyways, over in Icecrown there's a daily quest called Slaves to the Saronite. As you run around a cave and interact with some NPCs to free them, pretty simple stuff. But players started to report that whilst doing this quest, gold was mysteriously disappearing from their bags. Each time they would try and talk to one of the NPCs, 500 gold just got straight up deleted from existence. A forum thread and...
Did players get at least the gold back? Like imagine you're some really rich hardcore player that spends his whole life playing freaking WoW. Like no friends, no wife, no girlfriend, no nothing. You're just playing the game from morning till night. You have like so much gold and you do this freaking quest and you come out broke and you lost like millions or something. Okay, probably the quest will be done before you lose millions, but you will lose so much freaking gold. Holy shit. Like did they get the gold back at least? Like Blizzard should give those people the gold back. Like they should calculate like how many times you need to do this to an NPC to end the quest, so you know the exact amount, the maximum that players can lose, and they should just mail it to everyone that had this bug, because otherwise that would be unfair. Like imagine losing so much gold that you worked for and then you never get it back. By the way guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. Yo, that's nuts.
and several Reddit posts cropped up about players claiming to have lost thousands upon thousands of gold.
I
One
believe
player,
them.
34,000. Others jumped
Like,
on
we
this
saw
thread
it.
too because there was no way something like this could actually be real. Surely it was just people having a go at getting free gold from Blizzard. Until there was a blue post reply claiming that those affected would be refunded for their lost gold. As far as I'm aware, we never
That's
found
good.
out why, but instead of triggering the
They
text to
fixed
free
it,
these
yeah? Or they removed
NPCs,
the quest?
instead they just took 500 gold from your inventory. A few days later, Blizzard sent out refunds to those affected.
Maybe they
and
were
probably
gold
put
mine
a lot of people
slaves.
off from going near that cave ever again. The next bug was the bane of my existence while leveling as somebody who plays 2 pet classes in Warlock and Hunter.
Level
And
80,
if you
there we
leveled
go.
with a pet, you'll
The
remember
most
this
exciting
one for
achievement.
Sure. Every single time you would dismount from flying and your pet automatically
Why?
was summoned, it would be at 50% health.
Huh?
Now supposedly, back in the day in TBC, pets healed back up to 100% every time you took off on a flying mount, so it was a faster way to get them back up to full health than any intended way through regular gameplay.
Okay, I didn't play
For
Hunter
some
so much,
reason,
so I
this
don't
was a
know.
big enough issue to deploy a quote-unquote fix where the pet's health is modified upon landing. It still doesn't make a terribly lot of sense to me. If I take off and my pet is 85% health, isn't it possible for it to, you know, at least be at 85% health when I land again? Either way, I went and retested on RAF servers more recently, and pets still seem to lose about 10% of their health after landing, or I don't know, reasons.
Are they
At least
taking
it's
fall
not
damage?
50% anymore though. Speaking of annoying while leveling, anyone remember these mobs in Ice Crown? I was in the area and I thought, why not give it a check? Surely
I was
this
grinding
has
so
been
much
fixed
there.
by now, and yeah, you can see for yourself. I've no idea what's going on with these mobs outside, or especially the mobs to the right. Just
I've actually experienced that where like mobs evade everything. They freaking take damage, they heal back up, and they don't attack me back. But this even happened in like early starting zones. This happened even in freaking Durotar. Like there was like, what was this? It was a scorpion, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was a scorpion. I attacked it, it lost a bit of health, and then the scorpion reset immediately. And I always was in combat for a few seconds, then reset, and it was just stuck. It was a bug. I should go back to the place if I remember what it was. It was next to like this small mountain. And I was like a scorpion, it would do the same.
inside the
It
entrance
was an
here
early
near the
leveling
tables,
zone even.
but they are
And when I was
so
on Orc.
bugged to just evade out, and they've been this way since the launch too. The strange thing is they can still cast on you and you on them, so it's not like there's an invisible wall or anything. The mob pathing is just mega scuffed.
So you can't wipe
You have
them.
to run into their melee distance or they'll just spam evade you. Let's talk about some creative use of game mechanics
But it's
in raids
everywhere.
now. First up was a technique used by hunters to boost them from already one of the best AoE DPS in the game to the best AoE DPS, and it just wasn't even close. So Hunter's ability, Volley in Wrath of the Lich King, is pretty great. It scales off attack power, it crits, and it has no cooldown. Of course, as well, it's a channeled
can just spam
ability
it.
at your cursor, similar to Mage's Blizzard or Warlock's Rain of Fire, so you can't do anything else while channeling. Or can you? I have no idea how people find this stuff, but as a hunter, if you
With
started to
macros, you
channel a
can?
volley, cancelled it by moving, and then recasted a different rank, both of them would stack at the same time. I managed to get good footage of this during the short period that you can do it. At one point, I even managed to get
That's actually broken because if you just go one rank down, like you don't take the max but the second max rank, you can still do quite crazy DPS with that.
3 different ranks of volley to stack at the same
Even
time, as
3,
you can
okay, it's
see
more
here
broken.
from the clip on details. The delay between each cast was quite simple to get off as well. People even found out multiple different ways to get this technique to work, and Blizzard had to hotfix it twice before
Of
it
course.
was fully out of the
Like, they
game.
can
But it
abuse
wasn't
it.
just abilities that stacked, talents could stack too. Here's 2 separate examples players managed to figure out. Again, how people find this stuff is beyond me. First up, Death Knight, I see talent stacking. If there's one class and spec which did not need any help in phase 1, it was Unholy DK. They were already the top DPS by an enormous margin.
They were broken, but they even said it in an interview back in the day when they talked about Wrath of the Lich King Classic, when they first announced there would be a Death Knight and stuff. Like, they had issues balancing that, and they actually admitted it, because they didn't want this to feel boring or to be super weak, because they did want players to be excited about it, but they also tried to find a way to make it in balance with other classes, but they struggled. Like, they in public said that they had issues, so... yeah, I'm actually not surprised at this. I myself play like Unholy like crazy and stuff, and I had so much fun. It was so easy to actually level on it as well. Like way easier than on, for example, a Warrior. And a warrior is not difficult to level, like don't get me wrong, but I felt like I had a way easier time on unholy.
And this bug would make them, well, the best, but better at being the best. So one of their talents, Icy Talons, would give them a melee haste buff after casting Icy Touch, and it has 5 talent points total, when maxed out giving 20% bonus melee haste, which is a pretty huge buff considering Unholy cares the most about this stat to enable them to snapshot a huge summon gargoyle with the most buffs possible running at the same time. However,
otherwise
DK
you waste
Big Brains
that
figured
DPS.
out that if you cast Icy Touch with only 1 talent point spent on Icy Talons, it will give you a 4% haste buff, which is working as expected. But then if you put another talent point into it and recast Icy Touch, it will give you a separate, different Icy Talons buff, which now provided a further 8% haste on top of the 4 that you already had. For each point spent on the talent, it was stacking a new buff instead of replacing the old one.
Yeah, but even if, like, look at the duration, guys, so you can't really abuse that much. Like, it's a weird bug, but it doesn't benefit you because you have to reset. You can't reset your talents in the middle of combat to benefit from this, right? Like, yeah, you can do this at a target dummy just for fun. You get, like, here 90 seconds, then you're there, like, until you're at the last one, you have on this one 15 seconds left or so. Like, yeah, you can do this for fun, but it's not really good in a raid or dungeon because you can't do that. Like, it's impossible. You're constantly walking in combat. You can't do this.
Point into it and recast Icy Touch, it will give you a separate, different Icy Talons buff, which now provided a further 8% haste on top of the 4 that you already had. For each point spent on the talent, it was stacking a new buff instead of replacing the old one.
That's a funny
on top
bug.
Of that, haste
I like those kind of bugs, actually.
So instead of it just being 60% bonus haste with 5 talent points invested, it was over 70, which is over 2 extra heroism or bloodlust worth of haste. It goes without saying that this was unbelievably broken. I mean, incredibly inconvenient too. Imagine all your DKs popping their death gates after every single boss to go reset their talents. But yeah, this one got fixed pretty fast. There were other, potentially less extreme versions of talent stacking too, such as an Elemental Shaman talent, Elemental Oath, stacking with a crit buff from Druid's Moonkin Aura. Though as you'll know in Wrath, tons of classes share the same sets of buffs and debuffs. It's all part of Blizzard's design philosophy at the time.
Yeah, it's probably not
bring
supposed
the player,
to stack.
not the class, which after the TBC meta of requiring 5 shamans at all times, I can kind of understand why they did that. Stacking these 2 talents between elemental shamans and boomies would increase the raid-wide spell crit buff from 5% to 8%, and with warlocks and, well, casters in general being so powerful this expansion, that may well have just warranted a guaranteed raid spot for an elemental shaman, who are typically seen as overshadowed by other choices in casters. The problem is, I've no doubt other talent combos would have worked similarly if this could stack, and we would end up with some kind of really weird Frankenstein talent stacking meta, which sounds a lot like very rigid TBC raid comps once again. It's unfortunate for Elemental that this was fixed, but probably for the best. Finally, this has to be one of the more interesting set of interactions we've seen between new sets of talents meeting old tier bonuses. Over in the Resto tree for Druids is a talent called Improved Tranquility. In Classic and TBC, once you maxed it out, it would simply reduce the threat generated by this ability by 100%. In Wrath, however, a new part was added onto this talent, reducing Tranquility's cooldown by a total of 60%. And if you are a bit of a collector, you may still be holding onto your Cenarian tier set sitting in the bank. That was Druid's tier 1 all the way back from Molten Core in Classic. And you might have also noticed, as part of the 8 set, it reduces the cooldown on Tranquility by a further 50%.
So you have a reduction by 110%.
In the Druid tier 1 8 set, the cooldown on Tranquility would be entirely removed, making what Resto Druids usually consider a big cooldown into something spammable. This could be used to really good effect on any fight that had a lot of raid damage and not much movement needed, such as General Vezax or XT hard mode. Tranquility, however, is only a group-wide heal in Classic, doesn't smart heal yet, so you do have to manually move yourself to be in the relevant group you want to heal, which is clunky, but the heals it can pump out is definitely worth it. And in case you're thinking of mana problems, well, there weren't any. So many people were being healed at once that you had a really good chance to proc a clear cast. You were essentially permanently casting a really powerful group-wide heal for the entire fight. And even though you had to wear 8 pieces of tier 1 gear, this was getting rank 1 healing passes.
Yeah, but the thing is, when it comes to like scaling and stuff, because that's like tier 1, right? So after some time, the further you advance, and you get like more difficult content, I think the scaling is going to be at some point horrible, where your healing isn't that effective anymore. Like, it depends what kind of dungeon or raid you're doing, right?
And allowing groups to drop healers to favour more DPS. Blizzard though in the end decided this interaction wasn't something that they were a fan of, and nerfed the tier 1 set bonus down from 50% cooldown reduction on Tranquility to 15%, meaning resto druids had to go back to wearing gear from the actual expansion that we're playing. It's always fun to look back and see new, interesting, and often unintended ways that players come up with to break the game, and shows that despite Classic's age and it being a re-release, it still can have new things.
Yeah, but that bug, Serenite
Mindset, I should have included, drop it down below. I'm always down to research bugs or exploit type videos. I think they're fun to look
I love
up.
checking those out.
Thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all on the next one very soon.
Yo, that was actually frustrating with the goal with the Serenite Mindslave. I'm actually glad those players got the refund. But yeah, this with the freaking tier set and like infinite healing is also broken. But like I said earlier, it depends what kind of content you're doing. If they wouldn't have fixed it and we get like freaking WoW Classic Cataclysm, like try a raid in WoW Cataclysm with a freaking tier 1 set on a druid. You gotta not heal for any amount. Like, it's gotta be complete garbage, right? Like, it was still okay for like maybe some Wrath of the Lich King content, but if we go further and if we ever get like a new classic, it would have not worked anyway. But yo, that's interesting with those bugs. And I didn't notice with the freaking Unholy DK. I played Unholy DK too, but I never actually... Like, but I also didn't test it like that, right? Like, I usually don't put one talent point in, then use a skill, then put it in again to see a difference. But yeah, those people that were like theory crafting and testing, I guess that's how they discovered it and stuff. And yeah, this with the NPCs, this happened to me in Dota with the Scorpion. Like, it was actually for that one quest where you have to put the totem down, I remember now, and you get the poison into the totem from those scorpions. You have to do this with this one throw. And I had this bug where there was like one scorpion that was bugged. It was very strange. I hit it, it takes damage, and then it doesn't take damage, evade, and stuff. So weird. But yeah, guys, that was really fun to check out. We should check out more of those bug reports in WoW Classic or even in WoW Retail. It was very fun. And yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I will see you guys next time.